The Texas justice system is messy, so let's break it down. You're listening to So You Got Arrested, the podcast that tells you what really happens after an arrest. Hosted by BRCK criminal defense attorneys, we talk to the people who've lived it, worked in it, and been shaped by it. Whether you're facing charges or just want to understand your rights, your options, and the smart moves that could change everything, we've got your back.
So we just celebrated Veterans Day, and so I'm very happy that we get to use this opportunity to bring in one of the attorneys at our firm, James Heath. James is a veteran. James, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from?
So my father was a Air Force Academy graduate, so I was actually born in England, and then we kind of bounced around throughout the United States until finally settling here in San Antonio.
Okay. And so did you go to high school here in San Antonio or? I
did. I went to Ronald Reagan for my freshman and sophomore year, and then actually went to Central Catholic High School in Morgan City, Louisiana.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Not this Central Catholic.
Right. Correct.
Because a lot of the attorneys here, male attorneys here in San Antonio, all went to Central Catholic.
A lot of people that we know are Central Catholic graduates. So after high school, did you go to college first and then the military, or did you go straight to the military? What was your journey?
So to be honest, I tried the community college thing, and it wasn't for me at that time. And I kind of worked odd jobs, lived life as a young man. And
there you go.
Call the wild.
That's right. And then eventually, I found my way to the recruiter's office.
Oh, okay. Well, I always tell a story because we all have our different paths that we take to get where we are. Mm-hmm. And I always tell a story that when I started college, my professor, the very first day of college, said, okay, look to your left, look to your right. One of you is not going to be here next year. And I remember thinking, well, I wonder who it's going to be. Well, it was me. I was the guy that was not there the next year. So I ended up having to take time off and go the community college route. So
people on either side of them were thinking, I bet it's that.
Yeah, they all looked and said, yeah, it's definitely him. Especially when I didn't show up for class the next time we had class and I was skipping out. So you said you ended up in a recruiter's office. What branch of the military were you in?
So I was in the United States Marine Corps. Okay.
So your father was a graduate from the Air Force Academy. Why did you decide to go to a different branch?
Well, honestly, I shopped around. I talked to all the recruiters, and when I went to the recruiters' offices, they told me what they could do for me.
Okay.
And when I went into the Marine Corps recruiting office, it was a Staff Sergeant BRCK. I'll never forget him. He said, "Turn around. You don't have what it takes." So I signed up within like 2 days.
Wow. Okay. So it was almost like
reverse psychology.
Yeah, it's almost like a challenge.
Joke was on me, I assure you.
Okay. All right. So,
was there some sense that clearly everybody believes that the Marines be the toughest boot camp and the toughest branch of the military in terms of having to be pretty tough? Is that a factor in why you went Marine Corps?
I think I was just looking for a challenge, and to be confronted that way resonated with me in a sense that, okay, this is what I've been looking for.
Got it.
Wow. Interesting. And so kind of tell us about that journey. You enlisted. Where did you go from there?
So from there, I went to boot camp, what's called a Hollywood Marine. So in San Diego, California, the Mississippi River is kind of the divider line, or at least it was at that time. And then from boot camp, I went on to, follow on schools and whatnot before going back to California, 29 Palms, California, which despite its name is not a very luxurious place.
Yeah, it sounds like a resort. Yeah, we're staying at the 29 Palms. Now, as you're going through this, what is your dad saying about this? Like, did he want you to go to the Air Force, or was he just like, hey, this is your call? Or
no, my dad was very supportive. I think, both of my parents didn't want me to go into the military. They wanted me to take a school route and then maybe become an officer. But I think once that ship had sailed, they were proud of what I was doing and supportive of what I was doing.
Of course. Now, when you had started in community college, you said, hey, I went the community college route. It didn't really work out for me. What were you planning on studying at that time?
To be honest, I've always had an interest in criminal law.
Okay.
So I think at that time I was pretty hyped up, thought maybe I would be a cop or something of that nature, a detective really.
Okay. Yeah. And so you go to the Marines, you're at 29 Palms, and then tell us, where do you go from there?
So I did my entire enlistment. I just did one enlistment, the 4 years at 29 Palms. And then I was an artilleryman, and I attached for one deployment to Afghanistan with an infantry battalion, 1st Battalion, 7th Marines, Baker Company.
Okay. And so you go to Afghanistan. How long were you there for?
I think I was there about 8 months, I would like to say. I guess the days kind of blend together. I didn't really track the time.
Okay. And it was, as you enlisted, I don't know, you kind of described a situation where you said, hey, I was in community college and I was just kind of living my life, which, my father would have said to me, well, you're, not really being responsible. You're not, there's certain things you need to be doing. You're not doing them. Right. Was there anything about going through that process that maybe changed your mindset or changed the way that you viewed life or viewed the world?
Well, I remember feeling behind in life, to be honest. I was doing my own thing for quite a long time, and I was starting to see people approaching graduation of college, getting married and stuff like that. And I kind of felt like I hadn't moved.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really looking for some positive traction in my life, and I was able to find it through the Marine Corps.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So how old were you when you got out of the Marines?
I think I was about 25 years old, 24, close, one way or the other.
And then you go and finish up your college, your undergrad?
Right. So I went back to the community college, which I'm proud of having started and getting associates at community college, and then UTSA, and then I went on to Texas A&M University School of Law.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, no, it's funny that you say that, because I kind of had a similar path in that I was a non-traditional student, and I went through that moment where, I was already 22, 23. And like you said, you see all your contemporaries graduating and doing other things. And I think at that time I had 15 credit hours to my name. And I remember that there was this song that was popular at the time. And one of the lyrics was, everybody's changing, but I still feel the same. So I always thought about that. Like everybody's kind of moving on. And I'm still,
Well, how old were you when you went to law school?
By the time I started law school, I was already 27.
And you?
I think I would have been about 28, maybe.
Yeah.
I was 32.
Yeah. And so
all of us didn't just go straight to law school.
No.
And we're all pretty good at connecting with jurors and our clients, because we didn't just go from undergrad to law school.
That's right.
So I think it helps us in connecting with people.
Yeah, no, I had a time where I worked the jobs where I was a busboy and a dishwasher and a bartender. And so I can certainly, I've been through all that stuff.
Yeah.
I've served the public in those positions and done those things and have managers yell at me. And
I tell my daughter, who is an undergrad now at OU, but wants to be an attorney, is that the best training I had to be a trial attorney was waiting tables.
Yeah.
Because you have to listen to what people are saying and make them and try to serve them and try to get where they're coming from. Because a lot of times it's like, well, what do you think's good? Well, I don't know what they're gonna like,
right? But
you got to kind of have a see into that. So yeah. So how is being a Marine and being in a very difficult situation helped you as you're fighting the battles in court?
Well, to tack onto your point, I was an enlisted Marine, so you're kind of just thrown into these living situations with people from all walks of life, all types of character, all types of things, and you have to get along or find a way to get along. And I think that has made me very personable in a way where I can connect with people on many levels. Also, part about being a Marine is presentation. You try to present well because you're an advocate for someone else. You represent someone else. You are a representation of them. So being timely, being well-groomed and whatnot goes a long way. And also there's just the confidence in being prepared that the military really hammers into you from day one. And I think I tried very hard to carry that through into my career as an attorney.
So when you went back to the community college, the first time you went through, I mean, were your grades okay? Were they not okay? Or
I think I fully withdrew within 2 weeks of being there. And then I had to deal with that on the back end. But, luckily that it had been such a substantial time that it didn't really go against me.
So then when you returned, I'm assuming you were a different student.
Very much so. I took it very seriously, and I kind of had the discipline. I felt like, for me at least, starting school after high school, the problem was I didn't want to take classes that I didn't have any interest in, and I couldn't understand that that's a necessary thing to get where you want to go. Whereas I had already been through so much in the Marine Corps that at that point, as I could do anything.
Yeah, the Marines didn't care if you wanted to take that class or not. If you wanted to charge that hill, you weren't asked.
Right.
Well,
Exactly.
After going to Afghanistan, I'm sure sitting through college algebra, it felt like a luxury as opposed to.
I still hated algebra.
which is worse, Afghanistan or algebra?
It probably depends on the day.
And so you go to community college, and then you said you earned an associate's degree?
I did, from Northwest Vista Community College.
Oh, okay. Here in San Antonio.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Wow. Okay. And then when you went to UTSA, I'm assuming you still had that same mindset of, hey, I want to be involved in the criminal justice system somehow.
Right. Well, I never really thought of law. It was never anything that I wanted to do. And then, my brother is an educated person, and, we have a close relationship. And as we lived together, I was very grateful for him to let me live with him when I came out of the Marine Corps. And he kind of said, have you ever thought about being a lawyer? I took some of these classes when I was in school, and I think it's something you'd be interested in. And then I kept an open mind to it. And sure enough, he was right.
So you were initially thinking more still being like taking criminal justice courses and being an officer, police officer?
I don't know what I was thinking. I had some sort of interest in medicine, just because I thought it would be cool. But I was just kind of going with it. I had these benefits, and I had positive traction, and it was worth it for me to educate myself.
Got it.
Yeah, it's interesting because throughout life, you run into so many people who feel like, well, if I don't get this done by this age, I can't do it anymore. And, one of the most successful attorneys that I know, aside from you, Scott, graduated when we graduated law school. He was 10 years older than me. He was graduating law school at almost 40 years old, and he's a wildly successful attorney. And so I always tell that to people who tell me, well, I'd like to do this, but I'm already in my 30s, I'm already in my 40s. And it's like, well, wait a minute,
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's never too late to go.
I thought when I went to law school at the age of 32, I was going to be with I was not the oldest person in my law school class. We had a retired Navy guy, Tommy, who was 50-some. Phyllis Beale was a retired teacher, was older. So we had a lot of what they call non-traditional students at St. Mary's.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so when you graduated from UTSA, at that point was the plan, hey, I'm going to go to law school?
It was. So I had done UTSA. They didn't have a pre-law program at that time. It was called politics and law. So that's what I majored in. And they did like a summer law school preparatory academy. Wow. So I did that as well. And I had, done the LSAT, done all the prerequisites, and applied to every public school within the state.
And was there anything, because I've always imagined that being in the military, obviously it makes you very disciplined, and that discipline carries over to every other facet of your life once you leave the military. Is that the case? Was that the case for you?
I think it does. Absolutely. I would say that, discipline is recessive, though. It's something that you have to work at and build every day. If you slack off, you can lose it. But yeah, absolutely. It puts you on a right track to have the momentum to carry it on forever.
So we're coming up on the break. So we'll talk on the other side about how that discipline helped you as an attorney.
Absolutely.
The attorneys at BRCK Criminal Defense have helped over 5,000 clients move on with their lives. When an arrest or accusation turns your life upside down, we have the knowledge, experience, and integrity to get your life back on track. Traditional legal ethics, modern legal tactics, the best defense possible to get you through the criminal justice system. Search BRCK Criminal Defense to see our reviews and find out why so many of our clients have trusted us to fight for them. BRCK Criminal Defense, helping our clients move on with their lives.
So you're graduating from undergrad. You've served in the military, in the Marines. You were in Afghanistan for a period of time, and you start going to law school. When you're going to law school, do you have any idea of what exactly you're going to be doing when you get out?
No, I kind of went with an open mind. I thought that contracts actually would be very interesting. I really enjoy formal logic, and for that reason, I kind of thought contracts would be a good fit for me. But then I took, the 1L crim law with Professor Pham, and that was it. That's all I cared about.
There's so much logic in a criminal case, though. It's about these are the elements in the penal code. Can the state prove them or not? I mean, it's very logical. Yeah.
Well, and I don't know if did you ever have Professor Gerald Ramey?
I did not. No.
Okay. Yeah. He was a well-regarded criminal law professor at St. Mary's who just passed last week. I was very saddened to hear of his passing. But so at what point, you said in your 1L year, you're taking that crim law class and that kind of sparks your interest?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was pretty hooked on it. And, at the end of the 1L year, at least at A&M.
And just for people who don't know, 1L is your first year of law school. So there's 3 years of law school. You're either a 1L in your first year, 2L in your second year, 3L in your third year.
Absolutely. And so everyone's doing internships at the end of that first year of law school. So I applied out to, prosecutorial internships and wasn't able to get one, and actually got an internship at the Far West Texas Regional Public Defender's Office in Alpine, Texas.
Wow.
And so I went out there for the summer, and then it just amplified from there.
So for a summer, you lived in Alpine.
I did.
What was that like?
It was a lot like 29 Palms, but it was a great experience. I have a lot of respect for the gentleman out there and that office.
Is that an office that does the death penalty cases, or they do everything?
They're not doing death penalty cases, but they do, the vast majority of appointed work from felony all the way down.
And how big of an area does that cover?
When I was there, I believe it was the size of the state of Maryland, and it was just 2 attorneys who were great attorneys, but it's not very densely populated as much as spread out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I've always viewed Alpine as just one of the stops that you make when you're driving to Big Bend, right?
The gateway, I think.
Yeah. There's not a lot to it. And so you're at the Public Defender's Office, and this is an internship that you had?
Correct, yes.
Okay. And then did you, at that moment, decide like, hey, this is what I want to do?
Absolutely. Just the passion that they had for the work, especially in indigent defense, was something that really resonated with me. And I don't know, it tied with my beliefs and everything that I was looking for.
So you graduate law school, and then you end up going to work at a public defender's office.
I did, down in where we work in the 81st district, the Atascosa area advocates.
So what is it about indigent defense that, sparked your interest?
I think just the basis of basic rights that are founded in, the United States society. Everyone is entitled to these rights, and everyone needs someone to make sure that rights are protected and that everyone is getting treated the same way. I think in rural communities, like, some of the communities that we work in, that's a big theme that comes up time and time again.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's interesting the way that your life played out, because you're defending U.S. citizens and their rights in your service as a Marine, and then you come back and you're defending rights in your service with the Public Defender's Office and now as a criminal defense attorney.
Absolutely. And I'm very happy with it. I wouldn't want it any other way, to be honest.
Yeah, the thing that always, struck me about indigent defense, because, I know I've done quite a bit of that. Scott, you've done quite a bit. I mean, that's how I started my career, was I always had the belief that when people's liberties are at stake, that shouldn't hinge on how much money they have. Yeah, right. The quality of their defense should not hinge on whether they have a bunch of money and they can go afford to hire, a fancy lawyer like Scott. And so,
well, like anybody in our firm, we have nothing but top-rate attorneys in our firm.
And so it was something that when I was coming up, court appointments were not things that I took reluctantly. I still take a couple to this day, just because I feel like as attorneys, we should be doing that. We should be looking out for everybody, regardless of their financial resources.
Absolutely. I agree. And I know that you're so highly regarded in these areas, and that it's such a big help that when you do stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's just one of the biggest compliments that I ever got was I was in court and I was representing this client, and the prosecutor said, man, you're really working hard on this one. Is this one of your retained clients? And this was the God's honest truth. I told him, I don't remember. I didn't remember which cases I was hired on, which cases I was appointed on.
I know our paying clients may not like it, but I never paid attention to whether the client was court appointed or hired, because you're still doing the same job.
That's it.
You don't pay attention to
right.
that.
You're working on the case, and you're trying to get the best outcome you can.
Right.
And I know that that's a common misconception that some people have. Sometimes I would get court appointed clients who would say, well, if I paid you money, if I hired you, would the outcome be different? I'd be, well, no, this is as good as I am.
The interesting thing about that is once you're appointed and they say that you're good, they want to hire you, you can't take their money.
That's right.
Because you're already appointed. Because I've seen some attorneys do some crazy things. But yeah, if you're appointed and they've like, well, I want to hire you, like, you can't hire me. I'm appointed. We're fine.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, so what's your experience been like as moving from public defenders to working with BRCK? I mean, we don't pay attention to the money part. You're just doing your work in court.
Absolutely. I think it's very similar. I have my docket, I have my cases, and I'm always working my cases. Periodically, the way things go, the way you get these dates, you work through them up to the dates, and then you're on to the next dates, and so on and so forth. And it's really, I would agree, I'm blind to the payment at all. Mm-hmm. I'm just focused on the client and getting the best possible outcome that we can.
Well, and the funny thing was that it was James and his work with the Public Defender's Office that kind of put him on the radar, right? So I start hearing people saying, there's this guy at the Public Defender's Office that he's a superstar. And I won't name names because they may not want their name mentioned, but I got a call from somebody in the courts who said, look, I don't know if you're hiring, but there's this guy out here who works for the Public Defender's Office. He was just involved in a trial. And I mean, he's fantastic, and you really need to consider him. And so that's when, I started reaching out to Mr. Heath. And I do feel a little bad that, I poached him and tried to coerce him over from the Public Defender's Office, because I do believe I'm a strong advocate for indigent defense. But, he was doing a fantastic job for his clients, and we needed somebody at that time. So.
Well, I appreciate that very much. And to whoever those people are, thank you.
Who shall remain nameless, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
But we do want to emphasize that how much we appreciate your service to the country on this Thursday after Veterans Day. And so being someone who's in the military, what kind of mindset does that bring to you when you're representing somebody in court?
I think it's systematic but flexible at the same time, because, as defense attorneys, I think we wear multiple faces. again, we represent people, we're advocates for people, we're champions for people. And in selecting a champion, I mean, maybe a champion is right to just come out swinging. Maybe that's the right thing. But sometimes it might be necessary for someone to be calm, cool, and collected. And to be able to have that range, I think, is something that the Marine Corps really taught me.
So you make a great point, because we were talking about this before we started. And there was a lot of times people think that in order to be a good defense attorney, you have to come into court and be a jerk. But a lot of our cases, the facts are not good for us. You're pulled over because they have an expired license, and there's 100 grams of cocaine in the car. What's our defense? Okay. So a lot of times we're going in and we're just putting our hat in our hand and hoping they'll give us a good deal. And because we're professional all the time in our firm, people always give us good consideration. And so, not to say that we won't fight when the time comes. If they don't give us a good deal, we're taking it to trial, and everybody knows that we'll take it to trial, and we're damn good in trial. But there's something to be said about being pleasant to everybody and not coming in and putting your private part on the table there and saying, screw you guys, I'm not taking shit. Okay, that's not the way to go about it half the time. Right.
Well, one of the things that I've always kind of analogized it to is, when I tell clients, because they see me go into court, when I go into court, for the most part, I'm very professional, and I'm very, courteous, and I speak respectfully to everybody. And sometimes clients will occasionally say, well, it looks like, I saw you talking to the prosecutor and you were joking around with that prosecutor, or I saw you, small talking with the judge. And, I want somebody that's going to fight with them, is going to fight with the judge, and what have you. And I tell them, look, when you go to an NBA game, those guys are trying as hard as they can to win, because they're competitive. They're, the top at what they do, and they want to show that, and they want to win. They're, but after the game, they have dinner together. They see each other socially outside of the NBA arena. And in the legal realm, it's very much like that. I mean, when we're in court, nobody wants to win more than I do. And I've often described it as, I hate losing more than I enjoy winning. Right. But that doesn't mean that I need to be rude to a prosecutor to do that.
That stuff comes back and bites you in the ass. It just does. Because next time when they got you, if you beat them and you give them a hard time the whole time, the next time they have you, that next client will suffer the consequences of you being a jerk in court. They just will.
Yeah, or if you do something that's shady or unethical, then you get a reputation. It's the legal community is very small. Then there may be some other prosecutor who's heard about your reputation, and now they don't trust you, and now it's much more difficult to resolve a case because of that reputation that you've built up.
Yeah. So you already had a good reputation as a public defender, and now you carry that reputation into BRCK working for us. How has it been in terms of the reception you've met when you're in court now, when you've changed to working the private side?
I think a lot of the court members and the court staff are happy for me to have come to BRCK. And the change, I wouldn't say, is substantial in any means. I don't think that they treat private attorneys with some special privilege as opposed to those who are appointed. But I think to the point, right, character, how you represent yourself, how you carry yourself, these things, they translate no matter what court you're in.
Mm-hmm.
And, my last question for you, in closing, as we kind of end this episode, is if I had to put $100 on the table on a bet on who would win in an arm wrestling match between you and Scott, where's my money best spent?
I think it's right here.
Yeah.
I'm 64 now. Holy shit.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Well, when I was your age, man, I'd have given you a run.
I believe that.
Yeah. So that's all we have for today. We appreciate your time. Thank you for listening to So You Got Arrested with BRCK Criminal Defense with James Heath, Scott Simpson, and Steve Barrera.
Thanks for listening to So You Got Arrested. If you found this podcast helpful, share it with someone who needs to hear it. For more legal insights and real talk from the front lines of the Texas justice system, follow us and subscribe. And remember, BRCK Criminal Defense has your back. For more information, visit us at brckdefense.com.